What's good, YouTube? Listen, I recently posted a video telling everybody who had a question for me to ask it in the comment section, and I would be doing video responses. Not heavily edited video responses. It's really just kind of like I do in lives on a first take basis, getting it out the way, very minimal editing, but trying to answer people's questions in the same rapid fire way we do on live. Sometimes I'm a little bit long-winded, so doing videos allows me to answer the question a little bit more in depth without rushing it like I might do in live talking to a few hundred people. But before I start, if you're interested, I am rocking the Generational Curse Breakers tee. The link's in the description. If you know about that struggle, you know about that struggle. Now onto this topic. With that said, the next question is, how can we do courting in this day and age? I'd like to get to know people thoroughly before being physical or accepting a relationship. Do you suggest communicating this to men when dating, or do you suggest staying silent about our timeline? I think a little bit of both, right? I feel like you must first observe a man in his natural element. You have to just observe what he gives you and what he offers. Too often, women with standards, values, principles, morals, they approach the first conversation, the first interaction up front with all of these things. This is what I represent. This is what I stand for. This is what I don't accept. This is what and it feels like an empowerment move. The problem is men usually are more trusting of what they observe of a woman and not what they hear. See, women fall in love with what they hear and men fall in love with what they see. And it's not just visual, right? And that's a cliche and to a degree, right? That the cliche is correct to a degree. But that's not just visual. Men fall in love with what they observe, right? So when we think about when women fall in love with what they hear, we understand that concept because you've all been smooth talked. But men fall in love with what they observe, not just like, oh, the ass, the breasts, the this, that. Men fall in love with the behaviors they observe in a woman. And so when men fall in love with what they see, we are missing the largest portion of this concept because a man can lust after what he sees, but he falls in love with what he observes. And I think that that's a more accurate cliche, but wisdom is never going to be that cliche. So what I want to say is this. I feel like for you, not having that conversation initially, just having a good conversation, having some fluidity intellectually is important. Obviously, getting to the first date. You get to the first date, observe what a man gives you. Observe if he puts his hand on your leg, if he makes some moves, if he tries to jump you, if he suggests you go home and back to his place. Observe his eagerness to be sexual, right? You have to see what he would do if he wasn't coerced by... or not coerced, but if he wasn't motivated by a strategy. You have to see if what he would do if he wasn't trying to pretend or present himself a certain way based off of the information you gave him to act a certain way. Too often we give too many people too much information about how to manipulate us. I feel like for you, getting to that first date, observing what that man offers, what that man gives you, what that man suggests, and if he's aggressive sexually is important. That gives you a baseline for his intentions sometimes. If he tries to make a move quick, then you know that, hey, maybe this guy just doesn't have the patience. He's probably not equipped. Not that he's not a good person, but he's not equipped to give me what I'm looking for, which is a long-term relationship that grows slowly, that doesn't involve sexual gratification. Men who make the move on the first day often don't wait for like a woman. So he's probably not going to be the guy. The time to have that conversation is generally the first time a guy tries to make a move. When you reject him, you have to reject him and explain it. He'll remember it in that moment because it's valuable to him. It's relevant. A lot of times we have that conversation when we're just having long conversations, and then the guy is kind of separated from that conversation and his hormones rise, and then he's like, what's up? And he's like, well, I thought we talked about this. So now you're having another conversation. And I think that the easiest way to do this is to wait till a man missteps and let him know in the first 2 dates, right? Within the first 2 dates, if he makes a move, then he's really trying to get what he's trying to get because that's what he's prioritizing, right? And so observe that. You don't want to change that. You want to observe it in his natural state. You want to observe what he organically offers you, because a man who's looking for more is going to apply some more patience. But like, let's say a man makes a move on you, then you say, well, no, listen, I don't mean to waste your time, and please don't waste my time, but this is how I move with the sex stuff. This is how I move with this emotional stuff. This is how I move energetically. This is what I'm hoping to do and build. That's the conversation that you have in real time in person, because you need to be able to gauge his natural response, his organic response to what you're saying, right? You need to be able to feel his energy shift. You need to be able to see whether or not he rejects you after that energetically, or if he kind of goes into a shell, what he does, right? You need to see his genuine response. So I don't want to stop a person that I really don't know from being what they want to be. I want to observe that first. That's the first thing. So once you've gotten past, like, let's say you get to a first date, nothing happens, no moves are made, then yeah, now you can kind of like start to let him know what it takes to get close to you. And that's if communication increases after the first date. If you go on the first date with some guy, let's say you text him a little bit, y'all text y'all way to a date, or y'all maybe talk once, just enough to get kind of familiar so you can go on a date. You go on a date and then you don't hear from him until it's time to go on another date. Yeah, you got to do that again. Now you got to go on the second date and you got to be quiet and wait and kind of like, have a good time, talk on the date, but see what this guy offers you again. Because sometimes a man is just counting dates until you have sex with him, but he's still not trying to get to know you between those dates. He's not calling. He's not getting more familiar. He's not trying to become close. He's not connecting intellectually or emotionally. He's not being vulnerable with you. He's not sharing any information about himself or asking you about any important information about you. So don't put yourself in a position where, again, you've given a man all the tools to manipulate you because you gave him all your rules and all these different things. And now all he has to do is talk a certain way to trick you into the bed. So if you're not hearing from a guy after the first date, then do it again. Observe him. See how many dates he's counting to try to get in your pants, while still getting to know him, being a good conversationalist, things of that nature. What you want to do after the second date, if no moves are made, then that's when you like, hey, listen, I appreciate the respect you've been giving me. I appreciate the patience you've been having. This is what I believe about this stuff, or hopefully the conversation's picked up again. If the conversations haven't picked up between date 1 and date 2, that's a red flag for me. If the conversations haven't picked up between date 2 and date 3, if there's not more interaction and more correspondence and more communication, if it's the same, if you're not communicating anymore with the guy between dates, then he don't want you. He's not really interested in you. He's just counting days until he can sleep with you. Maybe I'll do a video on about that. I'll probably do a video about that literally the next video. But that's one thing you want to make sure you're doing is really observing him. Not necessarily manipulating him or wasting his time. You're not wasting time if you go on a date with a man. You're not wasting time if you go on 2 or 3 dates with a man. People always say you're wasting time, wasting this man's money. No, you're not. This motherfucker going on a date with you, you have to prepare for that date. You have to show up and give your time too. Your time is as valuable as his time, and is not wasting time just because you're not going to bend over at the end of the day. Whoever tells you that does not give a damn about you, and they're a shitty dating coach. And a lot of dating coaches run around telling women that they're wasting a man's time or that they're manipulating him if they don't put out, and or that they're manipulating him if they don't put out, and that's just ridiculous. So go on the first date, see what he offers you. You don't mention it, just kind of observe him. If between the first date and the second date, you don't hear a lot from him, but then on the second date, he wants to go on the second date, then observe him on the second date. Until a man is contacting you between dates and trying to get to know you between dates, you just observe him. Right? And if he goes on a few dates with you and he hadn't made a move and he's being a gentleman, then, that's a great, thing to acknowledge. Say, listen, I notice you're very patient. I noticed you haven't made a move on me. I noticed that you respected my physical boundaries or the implied physical boundaries, and I appreciate that. And, and it seems as though you may be looking for what I'm looking for. Address when a man is approaching you with integrity and character, okay? And allow him to know that you still have permission to come forward. And I respect how you're moving. Please continue to move like this. This is the way to my heart. Not, don't not acknowledge it, because a man who's doing good and doesn't know he's doing good will soon change his behavior for a different result because he's not getting any feedback. So you want to give him feedback when he is doing good. So if you have a timeline specifically outside of marriage, I think marriage needs to be communicated on that first or second date. Maybe it's still on about the third date. I think marriage, whatever standard, I think you should communicate. If you get to like a second or third date, that's when you communicate that. But if you're not hearing from a guy between dates, then you don't owe him any information. I think that if a man is trying to get to know you, he's talking to you between dates, and I'm going to do a video about that. But yeah, as far as courting In courtship, when a person's trying to get to know you, when a person's trying to get close to you, when a person's in your business, when a person is digging into your history, asking a lot of questions, talking about themselves, reciprocating that same vulnerability, they're courting you. They're trying to become friends. They're trying to become close. When a guy's just inviting you to dates and doing nothing else and then trying to make a move, he didn't win anything. So be very careful about the information you give to an F-boy, because sometimes they're using that to change the methodology and the way that they court you, just so they can pretend to be or appear to be a man who wants what you want. So don't spill the beans too soon. Stop and observe, watch and listen, and then from that point, make a move. If you need help making this decision, if you need help with guidance or anything like this, especially if you're actively dating, go to girltalkwithguys.com, book a call with me. A lot of times my clients show me the inbox messages, they show me the text message threads, and they ask, how do you feel about this? What do you think about this? What are you observing that I might be missing? Right. So I help a lot of people in active dating stages try to figure out whether or not they should even waste their time going on that second date, that third date, or a date at all. So, book a call at girltalkwithguys.com if you need help with that. Anyway, I hope this helps. Follow me at KFA24 on Instagram. I'll get with y'all later.